The human brain is the organ that we know the least about and is by far the most complicated. Years of research have revealed that mental health is about more than just anatomy. A variety of factors, biological and environmental, can influence the way the brain changes and functions throughout our life. Inside every brain, at microscopic levels, is an impressive system of over 100 billion nerve cells communicating with each other using electrical and chemical signals. Just taking 1 second to draw each of the more than 100 billion nerve cells would take over 3,171 years. Throw in electrical charges, chemical interactions, environmental and biological changes, and you can begin to understand how complicated and unique each person's brain is. There is still so much to discover. So let's focus on what we do know. We know this system is made up primarily of neurons, cells that can communicate with each other, and glial cells that support and protect the neurons. Each neuron is made up of a cell body with long extensions, much like the branches of a tree, called dendrites. Dendrites can receive messages. Projecting out of the cell body is a single axon. Axons send the electrical messages to the dendrites, the receiving part, of other cells. There is a fatty white tissue called myelin that surrounds the axon and improves its ability to send messages. It's like insulation on an electrical cord. At the end of the axon are more branches, each of which ends with an area called the terminal. A single neuron is able to communicate with as many as 10,000 other neurons. This communication happens even though the neurons never actually touch each other. For a message to get from the axon terminal of one cell to a dendrite receptor of another cell, it must cross a microscopic gap called the synapse. Even though this gap is microscopic, for the electrical message, it is still not possible to cross without help. For a message to cross from an axon to a dendrite across the synapse, everything must work in exactly the right way and at the right time. Stored inside each axon terminal are chemicals called neurotransmitters, such as dopamine and serotonin. These chemicals are needed to deliver the electrical message across the synapse. Now, at this point, some of you may be overwhelmed, bored, or wondering why you need to know how a neuron works. It's important because most medications used today to relieve mental health symptoms do so by adjusting one or more neurotransmitters. So, back to our microscopic synapse. As an electrical message travels down the axon, it stimulates the terminal to release the stored neurotransmitters into the synapse. Once released, the neurotransmitters attach to matching receptors on a nearby dendrite. This creates a chemical bridge, and the message can then cross the synapse into the next neuron. Different types of messages need different neurotransmitters. As soon as a message is delivered, the neurotransmitters detach and are removed from the synapse to prepare for the next message. Some neurotransmitters are absorbed back into the axon terminal to be used again. This is called reuptake. Others are chemically dissolved or metabolized in the synapse. Medications can impact how the different neurotransmitters are released, absorbed, or metabolized. This affects both the number of messages transmitted and the quality of each message. Unfortunately, not every medication works the same way in every person. It is highly individualized. This is part of the challenge of finding the best medication for each person's symptoms. After successfully crossing the synapse, an electrical message travels to the nucleus of the new cell where it is either sent forward to another neuron or the message is stopped from traveling any farther. The brain continually activates or deactivates neurons using this process. This is what allows us to connect what we are seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling with our knowledge, reasoning, memories, and feelings.